Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Lenard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and an occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Politics. Joining me today is Kim Curry. No, not the actor Tim Curry. Kim Curry. There's a lot of younger people probably saying, who is either of the two, right?
Absolutely.
Right? That's right. And first, I'm sensitive to names. People see my last name, it looks French. It's not Lenard, it's Leonard without an O. And my audience also knows I can't pass on the lame puns, the wordplay. Plus, I'm a firm believer in name association. You play with people's names, it helps them remember. So, of course, first thing that comes to mind, Kim Curry, is as in Kim Jong-un.
No, actually, Joseph, my first name is actually Kimbrel, Kimbrel, which my mother always told me that it was the male version of Kimberly.
Yes.
But that's not true, because if you Google, there's only one Kimbrel in the world, and it's me. My mother lied. I swear. I've never met. I've Googled. I've tracked. I've done everything I could, and I can't find another Kimbrel.
Well, it is certainly a derivative of it in her mind.
Yes.
Yeah, and the other one is Kim Mitchell, the Go for Soda Canadian rocker, whom I'm a fan of his music. Have you ever heard of Kim Mitchell?
No, I haven't.
Oh, go on YouTube, look Kim Mitchell's videos. You especially want to look up his Go for Soda tune. Part tongue-in-cheek, but serious subject matter, too. It's a lot of fun. And then, of course, the last thing, you got to bring up Johnny Cash, Boy Named Sue, right?
Yes. Now, when I was, I couldn't have been more than 12 or 13 years old. I grew up here in Colorado in a very small town, the home of the Colorado State Penitentiary. And there was a diner that I washed dishes for. I'm telling you, I wasn't more than 13 years old. I was washing dishes before dishwashers, and they wouldn't let me wear gloves, and my hands would be burnt every night when I left. But the song that they played every day over and over was A Boy Named Sue. And so I'm very well aware of Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
A Boy Named Kim. That was me.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure, well, as a child, that plays on the self-esteem. I'm sure today it's, you just fluff it off, right?
Oh, well, I was abused. I was beat up because of my name.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, bullies. Yeah.
My parents insisted that I go by KC, my initials. So everyone I went to high school with refers to me as Casey, which, crazy enough, I ended up naming my last daughter Casey, and we ended up having to move from Miami back here to my hometown in Colorado. And when people would call my house, my old high school buddies would call my house and say, "Hey, this guy's speak to Casey," and my wife would go, "Who is this?"
Oh, see, that's why I said in the green room, I don't script these shows. Gold like this can't be scripted, right? We would have never gone down this rabbit hole if I wouldn't have been my lame self and give you grief about your name. And
I love it. I think it's good.
You kind of already went there a little in the back, where were you born, where you were raised. Give that little spiel.
Okay, I'm from Canyon City, Colorado. That is the home of the Colorado State Penitentiary, which is located at First and Main. I grew up on 11th and Greenwood, which is a block off of Main. So whenever the alarms went off and the sirens went off, we knew it was time to lock the doors. People actually escaped from that prison and killed an entire family at my mother's church one time.
Oh
So
boy.
this is the little town I grew up in. And we could spend a day talking about the psyche of a prison,
No doubt.
of a town with nothing but prison guards raising their children with the prison guard mental attitude and what bullies they raised. And I was the victim of it because my name was Kim. I mean, I got harassed all the time and actually physically beaten because of my name.
Yeah.
So, when I was 17 years old in my little hometown of Canyon City, my father was he had been in the military, had spent 20 years in the U.S. Navy and retired, but by this time he was doing a variety of different jobs. And one thing was doing was a newsman at my only radio station in my hometown. There was one radio station and my dad worked there. And they needed someone on Sunday mornings to run the God shows. They had recorded every God show on Sunday, and then the next week they'd play it back. And nobody wanted that job. So they needed a young high school kid, and that was me, which
Cool.
it turned into a 33-year radio career.
Yeah, that leads into the bio that I read of you that interested me in having you on. Kim Curry, a 33-year radio broadcaster forced to retire after a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, who I have a high school friend who is also dealing with that. So that is something I want to discuss, also dealing with that. And now you're a writer of political fiction novels, which I kind of am too. So, so yeah, at the end of February, I ran health weeks, and one of the health things was DPB, a rapper who had a song called Peer Pressure, talking about mental health and bullying. So this show now relates to that automatically, as well as now the health issue of the MS. When were you diagnosed? Obviously, it's not a 24/7 debility to you, but it rears its ugly head at inconvenient times, I would take it.
Yes, sir. I experienced multiple sclerosis symptoms my entire life. I just didn't know what they were. I thought at one time I'd been bitten by fire ants. I thought one time I got stung by a killer bee. My arms would crunch up and I'd lose vision in my right eye and I couldn't feel my feet. And all of this happened throughout my life. But when I was 49 and a half years old, these symptoms came on, and they came on very, very hard. And for 6 months, I declined rapidly. We went into a diagnosis, and it takes about 6 weeks to get a diagnosis for multiple sclerosis. And it was my mother. My wife and I had come to visit my mom on vacation. It was my mother who looked at my face, and she said, "There's really something wrong with you. You need to go get that diagnosed." So 6 weeks later, they come and they tell me that I've been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It was coming on me so hard at the time. And because I was so dedicated to my radio station, I'm going to give a brief history. I went into Miami in 1976 as the young radio dude, and fast forward 30 years later, I was the boss. So I had tons of respect with people in that town because I had had such success. The radio station was the most listened to radio station in the Southeast USA. Power 96 is still a very famous radio station, but it was my lifeblood. And then suddenly the only thing I could think about was, I've got multiple sclerosis. I didn't even know what that meant. I was told, I got the diagnosis on the telephone with my doctor, and I was in a corporate meeting over in Naples, Florida, and I got the call and I walked out the door and the doctor said, "I'm diagnosing you with multiple sclerosis." And I was stunned. I didn't know what that meant, but I took the phone and said, "Well, thank you, doctor. I'll see you on Monday," because she wanted to see me on Monday. That was a Friday. And I walked out of the office and I said, "Guys, I've just been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis." I packed up my stuff and got in my car and started driving back over Alligator Alley. And I picked up the phone and told my wife, because she'd been waiting for this diagnosis. And then she gets on the 2005 version of Google, and across for the next 3 hours,
WebMD,
yeah, whatever it was, for the next 3 hours, I'm pretty much being traumatized by what I'm learning about a disease I'd heard of, but I didn't know what the heck was going on. I didn't know people could die from multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
And people do. I've got personal friends who have passed away from the disease. So the first thing I could think to do was just to get out of the business, man. Let the radio station go because I wanted them to be successful. I couldn't do this. I couldn't run the station and have MS. So I had to make a decision. Left the radio station, traveled back home to my hometown in Canyon City, Colorado, figuring at the time that my mom was still there. I was young in the diagnosis. I had high school friends who could take me places if I needed to, and spent the next 8 years battling this disease and crashing pretty severely. I had 50 recorded falls. I fell 50 times before my doctor finally said, "We've got to get you in a wheelchair. This is enough." I broke ribs, separated shoulders, and it was tragic. And I was on a drug called Rebif. And 8 years into the diagnosis, my new MS doctor, who is the genius of MS doctors in the state of Colorado, I promote his books like crazy. He said I needed to change to a different medicine.
And that helped.
Well, what happened was simple. I mean, first of all, he had always been telling me I needed to take vitamin D and 30,000 IUs a day. And I thought, that's crazy. So he changes the medicine. I'm a radio guy. I used to do a morning show, and I put my mom on the radio, and she'd have a terrible cold. And at the end of the conversation, she says, "Make sure you take your vitamins." I said, "Mom, vitamins don't do anything. Listen, you've got a cold." So I blew off vitamins. So I changed the medicine. For 6 months, the doctor kept harassing my wife. Make him take the vitamin D. Make him take the vitamin D. There was
vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin B12 are miracle vitamins, as well as certain minerals. Yes, and
absolutely,
the big pharma wants to poo-poo all that because they want us on paid medication.
Yes. Well, so for 6 months, my condition didn't change, and I didn't take the vitamin D. Then my wife made me do it. I took 30,000 IUs.
Good for her. Good for her.
6 months later, I start thinking, for the first time in 8 years, I start thinking, I'm not hearing the fingernails down the chalkboard. I'm not hearing that I've got MS in my neck. I'm not feeling it. And what happened was the doctor took the MRIs and he said, "You know what? Your lesions that are on your brain, which is what MS really is, have all calmed down. They're not fired up anymore." So the medicine change put me in a place where I'm not getting any better. I'm not getting any worse. I have not changed my medicine regimen. I'm not going to, because it's been 13 years now. I've learned to live with this. My legs don't really work from my thighs down to my feet. I'm in a wheelchair all the time. I have constant muscle seizures. I'm on drugs for that. I take my regular MS medicine. I still take the vitamin D like a crazy man. But you know what? 13 years ago, I thought I was going to die. I don't think I'm going to die anymore. So,
thank God.
You know,
thank God.
Good news, my doctor, Dr. Alan Bowling, the state of Colorado, he's my guy. So the reason I became a writer is because I wanted to tell that story. I wanted to tell the story of my radio career, which is a big career. If you look back on it, if you read you see my little gold records back here. These are people. That's Mary J. Blige over there.
That's exactly where I want to go next. For the benefit, for those not watching the behind-the-scenes sneak peek video version, which sadly very few do, this is mainly carried on 25 plus audio platforms for the benefit of those listening on audio, where primarily people do, or those reading a transcript. I indeed can see the things on the wall as you start. I see Pitbull over your left shoulder there. So yeah, go into that a bit.
Well, I'm like I said, my dad got me started. I went out as a young radio guy. You can't be Kim Curry on the radio. So I get my first full-time. I left the little hometown radio station, went to college at Southern Colorado State College in Pueblo, Colorado. 2.5 years into there, I think I'm really good. So I start sending out air checks. These are samples of my work to different radio stations around the country. And I did it.
On the proverbial carts. I had a friend who went to school for broadcasting, and I've been in the studios several times. Yeah, those literally almost like 8 tracks. Yeah.
Yep. It had our audition tapes on them.
It's all digital now, but
yeah. Really. All that stuff has gone to waste. It's in a landfill somewhere. So I get my first full-time job offer from Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm driving across the country. I'm 22 years old. I'm driving across the country. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be on the radio at night in Knoxville. I'm going to call myself Night Smoke, because back then you had Wolfman Jack, you had the Boogeyman, you had all these guys with names. So I came up with the name Night Smoke. So Joseph, I drive up to the radio station in Knoxville. This is so vivid in my mind because it changed my life. I get out of the car and I go up the stairs and I open the door of the radio station, and there's a girl at the receptionist desk, and there's a big guy behind her. He's got curly hair and a Hawaiian shirt on. And I'm thinking, I just didn't think about him because I want to talk to the receptionist lady. I put out my hand and I reached out and I said, "Hello, my name is Night Smoke. I'm your new nighttime disc jockey." And the big guy behind her says, "Well, if it isn't Kid Curry." Now, here's where everything changes. In the 1970s, there was a TV show called Alias Smith and Jones. It was a takeoff of Sundance Kid, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
I remember it, yeah.
Alias Smith and Jones. The character on there was Kid Curry. So the guy was a radio dude, and he saw this guy's name, and he says, "We're going to call our new DJ, who's Kim Curry, we're going to call him Kid Curry." And I looked at him.
It works, yeah.
Well, yeah, but see, remember now, I've been harassed by my name, my first name. And then when the TV show came on, all my high school buddies were harassing me about Kid Curry. So when he said to me, "Hey, if it isn't our new nighttime disc jockey, Kid Curry," I said, "I hate that name." And he says, "Well, then I won't sign your check." And I said, "Kid Curry it is."
It is, yeah. You learn, you make lemonade out of lemons.
But you know what? If you go back in the history of radio, there's a whole bunch of Jack Stevens and Roger Davises, but there's only one Kid Curry. I was, in the 70s, all DJs had big, deep radio voices. I'm this little kid with this high school voice, and I'm on the radio. So I had a personification in the name that no one could match. So as I went through my career, I was in Washington, D.C., and in Baltimore and San Antonio, and I spent 25 or 33 years in Miami. There's only one Kid Curry that ever made it on the radio, and it was me. So you couldn't mix me up with people.
Yeah. And the other thing is Night Smoke. People might associate that with marijuana, right?
In the 70s in Knoxville, in a college town, I thought it was cool.
It would work.
He had the right idea, though, because, like I said, it's me. It's who I became on the radio. It's who I became as a program director, as the guy running the big radio station in Miami until I got diagnosed. It worked out really well. And then I had a real mental problem because I was no longer Kid Curry. I was Kim Curry with multiple sclerosis.
You had kind of an identity crisis
at
that point. Yeah.
And everybody wanted to be next to Kid Curry. Everybody wanted to be with Kid Curry, but nobody wanted to be next to the guy on the crutches. Nobody wanted to be next to the guy in the wheelchair. I had a real mental problem with this because I'm telling you, I was a pretty famous guy, and then nobody cared. But then my wife said something one time. I was an angry guy, and my wife has gotten me through all this. And some wives don't stay for things like this, but my wife has been with me the whole time.
Mine didn't. Through my health problems. So yeah, I can relate.
It can happen. One day she finally just said to me, "You know what? You got to stop being so mad about being in that wheelchair." And when she said that, something clicked in my head. Listen. When Kid Curry used to walk into the room, everybody went, "Whoa, whoa." But now when the guy in the wheelchair walks in the room, they still look at you. They still look at me. So what I have to do is turn that around and say, "Hey, how is everybody in the room today?"
Positive.
I do the conversation. I'm the guy that starts it.
Yeah, so taking those lemons and making lemonade and an opportunity out of it. Amen, brother.
And I am the personality out there, believe me, because I ain't scared. I've hosted halftime shows at the Orange Bowl. I'm not scared.
Yeah.
I did seventh inning stretch. I'm not.
It's clear someone needs to get you out of your shell.
Yes.
For the benefit of the transcript, we're laughing. That was a joke.
Yes, sir. This is good, Joseph. I'm enjoying myself. Thank you.
Well, things are so serious all the time. We've got to maintain, even in my Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You book, there's a comic relief chapter to make that point. We'll go crazy if we can't laugh, and we shouldn't laugh at anybody else if we can't laugh at ourselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Now,
good point.
Do you write under a nom de plume or as Kim Curry or Kid Curry or Night Smoke?
Well, well, I've got my first book came out under Kim Curry, but then everybody said you're missing an audience because everybody knows Kid Curry. So then my next book came out as Kim Kid Curry. So I'm
we go.
Now I'm there with both of them. And and you and I lived through a time that most people don't even remember. 1987, when Ronald Reagan took a bill that was passed by both the House and the Senate, and he vetoed the 1987 broadcast bill of 1987. It was the Fairness in Broadcasting Bill of 1987. He vetoed that bill, which got rid of the Fairness Doctrine. And the Fairness Doctrine simply stated that if you or me were listening to a radio or watching TV and we heard somebody espouse a lie or disinformation, you had the right to go knock on that door and say, I demand equal time so I can prove this person a liar. It was a law. It was there until 1987. But then Reagan,
it still kind of exists only regarding federal election law with equal time. But yes, if you have a show and I don't like your show, I indeed can't demand they put me on the air to counter you anymore. Yes.
But you used to be able to.
Right.
You used to have that right.
But as a politician, if I'm running against Joe Schmo and Joe Schmo gets 10 minutes on ABC, I can knock on ABC's door and say, hey, I demand my equal time under election law. So I'm glad you brought that up. And there's one thing I don't have an issue necessarily with private or corporate ownership of a station wanting their particular type of message being able to be aired. I have more an issue with Reagan with the advertising regulations that were relaxed. I agree that pharma should be allowed to advertise over-the-counter medication. And I think it made sense at the time, but now we need to change it back. All this sickness selling of America and making everyone paranoid that every little hangnail is cancerous and you got to have this prescription drug is dangerous. I'd like to see that overturned.
And it's amazing to me how many multiple sclerosis drugs are suddenly advertised, and we're a small minority in this country. But I see the commercials all the time. It's a system. It's been that way. It ain't going to change.
These things, if we have symptoms A, B, and C, are for what we should discuss with our doctors, and our doctors know the available drugs and prescribe what is good for us, not us going in and demanding, I need drug X, Y, and Z because I feel A, B, and C, and then sadly, lazily just writing the script for them.
Yeah. And I saw the commercial on TV, and it said...
Yes, exactly. And everybody's paranoid about the sniffles as cancer now. So that's kind of it's like, did you ever watch Big Bang Theory? Were you a fan?
Yes, I am.
In the later seasons, Penny becomes a pharma rep, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. The pharmaceuticals reps talk with the doctors, they give them samples.
Yeah.
I have no problem with them advertising in medical journals and things of that nature, but advertising drug X for symptom A in Time magazine is kind of a health problem. And I'd like to see RFK Jr. and the Maha stuff result in over putting that regulation back in place.
Did you get a COVID shot?
I got the one Johnson & Johnson because of the paranoia and well, we were taking care of my mother with dementia at the time, so we didn't take it for us. We took it for her, as the scare tactic was. I do not get any of the boosters. I did not get an mRNA experimental vaccine. I got the more traditional J&J that had less side effects. But yeah, that's a whole other ball of wax.
Is your mother still with you?
No, she passed a few years ago.
My mother passed away from COVID. She died of COVID. So
I'm glad you said that, because I don't want anyone to think I'm poo-pooing it as a complete hoax. It's not. I know a nurse who had comorbidities, asthma, died because of COVID complications, filled up her lungs because of the asthma, died literally choking on herself because of the comorbidity. I also know someone else who died, went into the hospital, put on respirator, died because of COVID complications. So I don't wish to poo-poo it. I am just saying, indeed, it is an issue for certain people, but trying to peddle these shots on children who generally aren't at risk is the issue to me.
That's absolutely correct. There needed to be better and needs to be better designation of who needs. I'm autoimmune deficient, so I take them all. Everyone that comes out, I take them all. And I've never had a problem, never had an issue. I've never glowed in the night or anything like that. So
yeah, I also know someone who's got myocarditis because of complications from one of the jabs. And the part of the problem too is terminology. Polio vaccine, measles, mumps, TB, those are real vaccines. Those who get it, 99% of all people then become immune to the disease. The Wuhan jabs are a flu shot, not a vaccine. So I am all for you doing what you want to do, feel you need to do, but let's deal in science and real informed consent, not lies and bullying and pressuring because somebody wants to make millions because they just bought whatever stock.
So Joseph, if someone's lying, don't you think you should have the right to debate that liar?
I get that point. And usually there is alternative outlets that you can do that. And of course, today
they're everywhere.
There is the internet, right? Anyone can say, and that's almost a problem, right? Anyone can say anything on the internet. And like one of my quotes in my CTP 2 book, the quotations chapter, never before in the course of human history have we had at our fingertips the ability to research facts. But conversely, never before in the course of human history have people had such access to confirmation bias bullshit to maintain their delusion.
So I'm gotcha, and you're right about the internet, 100%. But I still, as being a radio broadcaster, I still believe that you could, if there was a safe haven, if America knew that you can see all sorts of crap right here in your internet and all that stuff, but radio and television is under the fairness doctrine, and we are upholding the fairness doctrine. And when there's a lie spewed, you now have the right to debate that lie and prove that lie as a lie. So then that way, at least the broadcast facilities, radio and TV are covered. And that's just one more part of it. I mean, there are so many things you can grab information from these days. So I get it. I understand it's everywhere. But if you could just zero in and just help one place where people could get honesty.
Yeah. If it were indeed honest to be an inclusionary and fairness thing, it has the word fairness in it.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, it's warped and twisted to be exclusionary, to find an excuse to be exclusionary. So the devil is in the details. I'm with you on the, if someone's peddling lies like the 60 minutes distortion of editing, although that, again, would apply under federal election. You have candidate X on for an hour, I demand my equal time. So there's still that there. If you've had somebody on and deceptively edited to make them look good, as the lawsuit that soon to be settled alleges regarding is it ABC and 60 Minutes, but whatever. So I'm with you in spirit, but my political background since 1978 shows me and tells me the devil is in the detail, and the bill never does what the bill title says it does.
Well, that's because those who, so this next book that I'm writing, which is the third of my series here, I got Bonnie's Law. Actually, the first one is The Death of Fairness. The next one is Bonnie's Law, The Return to Fairness. And the next one is going to be The Bonnie Party. So take
interesting.
that, and you'll get to see where we go from there. We're going to create a third party. We're going to create a third party.
We finally brought it back to you as an author, because again, I don't script shows, right? Who knew those rabbit holes were going to open, but they did, and we went there. An honest and real discussion here.
Everything you're talking about there, I believe that there has been a divide in truth in this country for as long as we've been here. And when I go out and I do group meetings with people as we discuss my books, I get it from both sides. We'd love to have fairness. We'd love to have truth. We'd love to be able to figure out a way to go somewhere to where we know we could get truth. And it's from old, decrepit Democrats, old, decrepit Republicans. I mean, I was in the middle of I was at a Mercedes-Benz dealership, and there were all these old rich white guys. And it just happened to be the day that one of my books was published. And I ended up holding court with this Democrat held court with these 10 Republican rich guys, and we all ended up agreeing that, you may not like what's going on, but if we could find a place for truth, and everybody wants truth, I love the cat.
There's
That's
Boo.
A great deal.
Boo, we're in the middle of a recording.
She just takes off like you told her. Excellent. So, but from what I get from both sides, it would be nice if we could just have a haven of truth where people could go and be safe and know that this is well researched. It's covering all the bounds that you want to have covered, and it's being done in a way that can be open book to everyone, so you can see what the research is and see what the end result are.
Right.
So I just in my next book, we're going to get there. This little girl.
Boo is upset because I have the front door closed. He can't look out because I have to have the door closed in case the mailman comes up or he'll interrupt the recording, right? So I have to have the door closed so he can use the mail slot. At any rate, the issue is Orwell. And there are facts, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. You can be as delusional even as you want, but facts are facts. This my truth manure
I hate it.
No, those aren't facts. Those aren't reality. That isn't truth. That's your delusion you want to cling to. That's the problem with the fairness doctrine issue here, because you have delusional people who want to claim, and I've got an article, what color is the sky really? That want to insist it's blue. It's not actually blue. It's transparent. It reflects, it's light refraction of the planet's water to appear blue most of the time, but it can appear green at times. It can appear orange at times. If you're on Mars looking up, it's going to what? Appear likely red because of the light refraction of the red planet. It isn't blue, but yet that's the unscientific thing everyone's indoctrinated to parrot.
Yep, that's the truth. But I believe you can write legislation and write rules and accomplish this. So the little girl is going to do it. The little girl's going to accomplish it. So,
okay, so yeah, let's start to give us slowly, for the benefit of audio and the transcript, but for benefit of the behind the scenes video, give us the books again, one at a time. The first one is?
The first one is The Death of Fairness. The second one is Bonnie's Law, The Return to Fairness, Kim Kid Curry. And probably the most fun of them all is my memoir, Come Get Me, Mother, I'm Through. Which is what I used to have a feature I did every night on the radio where I'd have kids call in and rip on their school and talk about their teachers and their sisters and their brothers. And at the very end, I'd say, okay, we're done. Come get me, mother. I'm through, because I was Kid Curry. I gave the impression that my mom always came to pick me up. So everybody remembered that line. So that's why we named the book, Come Get Me, Mother. I'm Through.
That's great. That's wonderful. I have the How to Write a Book and Get It Published Hints, Tips, and Techniques book also, because a lot of people don't realize they have stories like that they can tell and would be interesting to others, but they don't think to write it.
Everyone should consider writing a memoir. I know it's difficult because I did it. You have to go back and you have to check everything, make sure that the stories you're telling are not going to offend anyone, that maybe you remembered it differently than someone else did. But believe me.
Oh, yeah, memory is an issue. We can remember things differently. Facts are facts, but our memory can be foggy. And Absolutely. Again, it's our preferred delusion as opposed to reality.
Right.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you've been on. Do you have a website for people to find you?
As a matter of fact, I do. It's krcurry.com, and that's the website that everyone finds me on. I'm also available on Facebook at KR Curry, the author, and Instagram, KR Curry, the author. But remember, I'm going to remind everybody that I'm a pretty opinionated guy, and I may piss you off.
Hey, we've all got a right to our opinions, and we've all got the right to agree or disagree. What we don't have is the right to our own set of made-up facts.
Absolutely. But what we also have is good communication. I enjoy talking to you, Joseph. This was good for me.
I loved this. And I'm glad Boo came in. That, little also additional comic relief for those viewing on the behind the scenes video at BitChute, Brighteon, Daily Motion out of France, Rumble, or YouTube. So thank you, Kim Kid Curry, for coming on today. I really appreciated our discussion.
And Joseph, thank you very much for your time, sir.
Take care. God bless everyone.
Yes, sir. You too.
Wait. Don't tune out yet. And no, if you're looking behind the scenes video, pay no attention to with a body like this, who needs hair, funning shirt. If you're a regular to the show, you know I don't do this very often. Every once in a while, however, like today, I went to Olga's for a BLT and an orange cream cooler for dinner, and something began nagging at me of what I didn't say during the show. I made some notes, right? The fairness is in the markets. I didn't say. If you want left wing, if you want right wing, there are stations for that. If you want bias, your preferred bias, you can find that. This day and age, there are tens of thousands of licensed radio, TV stations you can find in the market and what you want, or you can find in the market those who are neither left nor right, but actually fact and reality only based, that deal in not left or right bias, but based on facts, and you can have legitimate disagreement discussions as long as you're rooted in fact, not fantasy and delusion that some seek. It's like the NPR notion. This has nothing to do with left or right. The argument is the same. At one point, it may have made sense for government to help fund station where there was none. So there was availability. Today, with tens of thousands of owned stations, the markets filling the airwaves, radio and TV, and, as said during the show, availability of all kinds of podcasts and whatnot via the internet, it makes no sense to allow NPR, whether left or right, to steal taxpayer money to help fund, even in part, any of their operation. If you can't compete in the market, then go away, sell ads like everybody else, or like PBS, eliminate their public funding, raise more through fundraisers, through PBS-a-thons. Those who want that channel, you pony up the money for that channel. I shouldn't be forced to fund a channel I don't want to watch. And it's like me being an IT guy, right? I mentioned law that claim to be one thing and are something else. So markets are your fairness, and you can find truth or you can find your delusion if you want. IT guy, net neutrality. No, 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 not just no, hell no. Like the fairness doctrine for the airwaves again. No, not just no, hell no. Net neutrality is not about public access and opening up the internet to and for more people. No, it's about dictatorial, fascistic control out of DC over the public side of the internet. They have full fascistic control of the military side, governmental side of the internet. And we all know and understand why, and I've got no problem with that. They have no business meddling in the public side of the internet. It's not about granting more access. It's about their control and censoring what they don't want to be on the internet. It's the same with fairness doctrine. It's about dictatorial control of what can or can't be said. The politicians want to have certain narratives only available, and It isn't that you'll be able to demand to be on to counter it. Your viewpoint could still be censored and blocked out. It's like this show. All right, let me use this show as an example. It's a Christian show. Can an atheist then, under the fairness doctrine, yes, force, demand counter programming on my show? No, not just no, hell no. That's not to say I haven't had an atheist on. Liz Enton, atheist, been on a couple times. Not to say I wouldn't love. I talk about Penn of Penn and Teller as a famous atheist all the time. Would love to talk to him for hours on this show, open up this platform for him, because I know enough about him that he and I, me as a person of faith, him as an atheist, could have a reasonable conversation. But John Doe, atheist up the block, getting to come on and rag on Christianity for an hour as counter programming, as his fairness cry. No, start your own show. Go to a show that wants your nonsense. So not just no to the fairness doctrine or net neutrality for the reasons I pointed out. It's not about fairness or openness and access. It's about dictatorial control out of Washington, D.C. How have people not figured this out yet? I don't get it. So those are the notes I had. I don't want to ramble on longer. I could. So many thoughts went through my head. I've got like an hour of time of things I could continue to go on to say, like we mentioned the Wuhan jab. You weren't able to counter that narrative with real science, like mask science, cloth masks, even an N95 mask. 150 years of actual real science tell us who actually care about facts and truth and reality, that the COVID particulate size is smaller than an N95 mask even filters out. But no, you have to wear a silly cloth mask that wasn't going to stop anything. So the fairness doctrine, would that have helped in allowing people to counter that? Probably not, because the government still decides to censor against anybody they want. And when the government decides this is the narrative you must peddle or we will allow on the airwaves, fairness doctrine, if real or not, too bad. You don't get to say it. If you want to counter it, start your own show. Do something on the internet. The information is there. Facts are there. They can be found. The problem is a lot of people like their delusion and they seek confirmation bias to maintain their delusion, devoid of facts and reality. Okay, at any rate, felt it necessary to add this on. I wish I still would have had Kid Curry on to say that and have him react to. Maybe we'll have him back and see if he thinks my argument makes sense. Your fairness is the markets. Your fairness is start your own podcast. Net neutrality isn't about access. It's about control and dictatorial edicts out of DC. That's why I oppose these things. They say it's about one thing. They lie. over and over. How many times have you seen it from these politicians? They tell you one thing, they do another. When are people going to wake up for this? So I agree. Openness and fairness of access to refute things, you have that. It's called the markets. And there are stations who will let you speak your mind. And if you don't go there, start your own podcast. You can do that. I wrote a book, Podcasting Quick Start Guide, to help you do that. Thank you all. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.